So how many of you are current Qualys customers with Qualys VM? A couple?
I've
Okay.
had you
All right,
badges
wonderful.
scanned already.
So my name is
Somebody
Jimmy
already
Graham.
scanned?
I'm the Director
Oh,
of Product
somebody's already
Management
scanned
for
already?
Vulnerability
And you
Management
too?
at Qualys, and I'm going to be
I
talking
did.
about uh, how you can
Did somebody already scan
enhance your
Can I scan
vulnerability
your badge?
management program by taking a risk-based approach.
Thank you.
And I want to introduce some of the products I'll be talking about so you're familiar with it. So we've got Qualys Vulnerability Management. We do agent and scan-based detection. So we're not, we don't require scanning. We do scanning. We do authenticated scanning. If you want to use an agent, we also support agent collection, so you can get that data in more real time rather than waiting for scan windows. And we have comprehensive coverage, and what that means is we're looking at devices no matter what kind of device they are. So we're looking at cloud devices, private cloud, public cloud. We can look at on-prem devices, virtual systems, mobile devices, workstations. All of your systems basically in one place, and we can pull vulnerability data into a central system. And we call that the perimeterless world. And we also have constant monitoring, alerting, so we can tell you, we can pop up an alert that says, hey, we found a severity 5 on your external environment, or we found an actively attacked vulnerability on your workstations, and so on. And we also have Qualys Asset View, and Qualys Asset View takes that vulnerability data and pairs it with asset data. So we give you a unified view of IT and security data in one place. And Asset View is what powers our dashboards, widgets, and search engine. So you can search on it, you can create dashboards, and I'll show you a demo of all of these as well. And then with Qualys Threat Protection, we take real-time threat intelligence and we layer that on top of the vulnerability data. So rather than just trying to, rather than sort your vulnerabilities based on CVSS score or Qualys severity score, we can say these vulnerabilities are being actively attacked in the wild, or these vulnerabilities have an exploit available. Because it's very difficult to just say I want to look at CVSS 9 and 10 or Qualys severity 5. A lot of times that's still too large of a circle to draw around your vulnerabilities for prioritization purposes. And threat protection gives you that additional insight so you can prioritize. So I'm going to talk about the importance of prioritization. And I see organizations a lot of times in one of two states. They either have a mature program where they're doing proactive vulnerability management, routine scanning. And then I see organizations that are a little bit less mature where they're not doing as much scanning or as much remediation on vulnerabilities. There's a huge vulnerability backlog. So prioritization is needed in both cases. If you have a mature program, you still need SLAs and OLAs. You don't want to treat a CVSS 10, all CVSS 10s equally. Some CVSS 10s are going to be actively attacked. Some are going to have exploits available in the wild. Some do not. So it's important to be able to set those SLAs and OLAs so you have something to work towards. So if I have an external facing, Qualys Severity 5, CVSS 10, that's being actively attacked, I don't want to wait 30 days to patch that. I want to wait, maybe 24 hours, 48 hours, and so on. And then for the less mature, more reactive VM programs, you need to be able to dig out of that vulnerability hole, basically. You have a huge backlog of vulnerabilities. You need to know what to fix first. How are you going to get, decrease your risk the most? And that is through prioritization using real-time threat intelligence, basically. You can say, I want to look at my high-severity vulnerabilities, but I want to focus on ones that have a specific impact. A lot of organizations are a mix of maturities. I see that a lot. Sometimes it's based on business units. Sometimes it's technology area. Sometimes Windows patching is great. Remediation's happening, but maybe not so much in the Unix world. So it's definitely important to take a risk-based approach, and we'll go over that. To actually prioritize, you need three different sets of data. You need asset data. So that would be things like asset class and asset risk. So asset risk would be data points like what kind of data is on this device, what regulatory compliance applies to this type of device. Class is more like, is this a workstation? Is this a server? What kind of device is this? How is it being used by the different users? You need vulnerability detections. You need to know the severity of vulnerabilities, and you need full coverage. You need to see your workstations, your servers, your cloud systems. Basically everything that you have in your CMDB, outside of your CMDB, needs to be in your vulnerability management system so you can have visibility in those detections. And you need threat intelligence. You need to be able to pivot on that. It's very difficult to do this manually. You can try. You can look at news blogs and RSS feeds and try to figure out manually which of these vulnerabilities are being actively attacked. You know, search exploit DB looking for exploits. But it's important to have that integrated so you can do this in an automated fashion. And it's also important to combine these 3 data points to come up with that priority for remediation and patching. Another thing I recommend is to combine those and track inside of a dashboard so you can see it visually. Being able to quickly pivot on this information is key to knowing where you need to focus. Do I need to talk to the Unix team? Do I need to talk to a specific business unit? Being able to track this visually will help you see these different issues and areas where you need to focus your remediation program. So I'm going to do a demo real quick of vulnerability management and threat protection. Okay. So this is our new vulnerability management dashboard. If you're current customers, this probably looks fairly new. So what we've done is we've taken the asset view technology, which was our dashboarding and widgets, and we merged that with VM. So now we can build widgets based on vulnerability counts, give you deeper insight into this data. And all the widgets that we have in the VM dashboard are clickable, customizable. You don't have to just use this default dashboard. I can click here on the new, and it's going to give me all of my new vulnerabilities. I can, with one click, filter it down to just severity 5s. And then I can drill into specific vulnerability counts. So each line item that you're seeing is basically a vulnerability detection. And that's basically our new VM dashboard. So this is in beta right now. It's something that we'll release in the next couple months. If you are a current customer and interested in the beta, let me know. We'll get you on the beta so you can start using this, building your own widgets and dashboards. But to go back to the discussion about prioritization, it's important to, like I said, combine certain attributes about assets in order to build that. And I'll pull up my dashboard here. So I call this dashboard a threat protection remediation dashboard because it's basically just telling me where I need to focus my different assets. So you can see here I've got these remediation targets. This is everything that's in my security policy that I need to fix. But rather than look at this giant number, 50,000 hosts that need to be addressed, I can narrow that down based on real-time threat information. So I've narrowed this down to only assets that have an exploit public or actively attacked. So I'm able to say, oh, I want to focus on these 786. And we had talked before about asset class. So we have the same thing here with workstations. This is everything I really need to fix. My security policy says I need to remediate specific severities, confirmed vulnerabilities, and this is the work I have to do. But what's the work I have to do now? This is what I'm calling high priority, which is exploit kit vulnerabilities. So since we're talking about workstations, exploit kits don't really apply to servers. Exploit kits are designed to target individual users who are browsing the internet or get a spam email and click on something. So you wouldn't want to prioritize an exploit kit vulnerability on a server, but you would want to prioritize it on a workstation. So I'm taking the vulnerability risk, I've got the vulnerability detections, I have the asset class, I know this is a workstation, and I'm combining that with real-time threat intelligence to say this specific vulnerabilities or this set of vulnerabilities are being used in exploit kits, which is very high risk for workstations. I've done a similar thing here for external. I've got 62 vulnerabilities that meet my security policy criteria for needing remediation. But then I've got this other set, and if you notice, this number is larger because I've said I don't care about severity. I want to know if it can lead to denial of service, because an external-facing denial of service is a big deal. It might not be a big deal internally, but I'm taking that asset context, adding that to the threat intelligence and the vulnerability detections to get this number. And of course, we can track against SLAs as well, so we can see which ones are out of compliance according to the policy. If I have to remediate vulnerabilities within a certain amount of time, I can track that in the dashboard visually. And we can do the same thing. I'll scroll down a bit. We can do the same thing with like PCI. So we've got remediation targets. PCI says you have to remediate everything CVSS 4 and higher. So we have that. But then we've prioritized this, what I'm calling high priority PCI. And I'll bring up the widget config so you can see that all I'm doing is combining these data points. So I'm basically looking at a specific base score, CVSS. I'm looking for confirmed vulnerabilities. and I'm saying high data loss true and public exploit true. So I'm looking at only vulnerabilities that could lead to high data loss where there's a public exploit. So it's not that I want to ignore those other vulnerabilities in that other box, but these are the ones that I want to focus on first. This is how I'm prioritizing. And again, this can help you dig through a vulnerability backlog, or this could, this could help you set these types of SLAs and OLAs so you're remediating within the proper amount of time based on this threat context. So also in threat protection, we have a live feed, so we can tell you when there's a major event. So if there's some major news event, the meltdown in some Spectres, the WannaCries, other things, we've got a Dell EMC vulnerability here and a Drupal vulnerability here. We're going to give you this in a news feed within threat protection, and we're going to tell you how many assets you have impacted. So rather than you trying to search your VM program manually, trying to copy-paste CVEs from a news blog to see if you have it in your environment, we're just going to give you the number. And we also have another feed that's basically all exploits. We pull this from Metasploit, we pull this from ExploitDB, we have a couple private feeds as well. And we'll tell you when an exploit comes out for a specific CVE. Because a lot of times exploits come out quite a bit after the CVEs are published, or a new type of exploit comes out. This one's from 2010, but 2 days ago there was an update made to the exploit. So again, we can link you out to that. So I can click on one of these, and it's going to link directly to the exploit. So you can send this to your red team to run the exploit, test it. But we also give you your number of assets that are impacted. So rather than, like I said, manually searching, you can just click on it, and I can see I have these 5 assets are vulnerable to that specific vulnerability. I can group by vulnerability and see there's a Windows security update that I need to apply to these 5 assets. And for the high-rated feed, we actually do a full blog on these. So if you click on the title here, the researchers that actually write the vulnerability detections will fill out this blog and basically tell you exactly how the different attacks work, how the exploit works. Sometimes if we have the information available, we'll give you some remediation options and mitigation options for these vulnerabilities. And this is all part of Qualys threat protection. So basically using those 3 concepts, the asset data, the threat data, and the vulnerability data, you can prioritize visually in a dashboard. You can do this in reporting as well. We can do this in continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring can give you an alert. So if I want an email every time there is a denial of service vulnerability on the external, then I can send that an email to IT, to other people in the vulnerability management program, whoever wants to consume that. Same with any of these types of widgets. It's useful to have a dashboard you can drill into, but it's also useful to get active alerts. We can do integrations with SIEMs as well. If you want to pull this into something like Splunk or QRadar, that's an option as well. All of these RTIs, the real-time threat intelligence, we expose that through APIs. So if you do want to do your prioritization inside of an external system, we can support that as well. So that's it for the demo. If there's any questions, please come up and we can talk about it. Thank you.